the robotics project. Now, normally the end, what for me the big thing that's important is that this subject is called engineering maths. Now, we've done a lot of maths in this topic. We've spent a lot of time exploring the different physical concepts, including force and motion. We've looked at vectors. We've now done a lot of stuff on electronics and stuff. But this subject in its overall is still called engineering. So I kind of think that one of the important things to talk about when we talk about trying to do engineering is to talk about, well, how do we, like, engineering is mostly, one of the main things that it's doing is problem solving. Oopsies. Is problem solving. And it's usually about building a solution. Now, I also think a really big part about engineering is also design, but that's something I can talk to you guys about later on. Now, so therefore, when I started to teach this class, I pretty much said to all the math teachers, I'm going to do a project. Because if I don't do a project, if I just spent the next 3 weeks, the next 6 weeks instead, give you guys some more work to do. Maybe now we could move on to a different type. We could maybe move on to biomedical engineering or something. I could give you a brand new topic like that. But I instead would like to get you guys to build something. Now it's going to be not ideal getting you guys to build something from home, but we're going to start the process. Now, the first time I built this, the first time I did this course, the very first time I did a project, the project was building a bridge. And what we did with the bridge is I told students, right, you've got 4 weeks. I want you guys to take some cuddle pop sticks, and your bridge, whichever bridge is the strongest, that can hold the most weight, that bridge will be like, you know, that bridge will get an A or something like that. And then I said, cool, great. I want you to explore why you chose that bridge and do some research. And then, you know what? I'll be honest with you, it wasn't too bad, but I didn't like it. The reason why I didn't like it is that after the bridge broke, okay, after we had like a broken bridge, my problem was that I could then not, we missed out on one of the major parts of that, problem solving with engineering. And I actually think one of the most important part that engineering is refining a model. And learning from mistakes. You guys, when they built the bridge, the people who built the bridge that didn't have support braces between the two sides couldn't rebuild their bridge because it got destroyed. So I really hated that because they couldn't go back and like adjust their model trying to fix what they built. And that kind of annoyed me that it was just a one-time thing was done. Now, of course, I'm not saying that in the real world, obviously you don't build a bridge and you see if it works, and if it doesn't work, oh well. The whole thing is, you would build multiple models online. So you would build like a software model for the bridge and then you would test it. So I really didn't like that model. So I moved on to a robotics project. Now the robotics project I got students to do is I got students to build a little car. And they've been doing this from 2018 to 2019. So I've had about 4 semesters to do it. I think this would be my 5th semester. I might be wrong. I might have done it. I think I may have done it maybe this end of 2017. So I may have had 5 semesters to do it. And what we got the students to do was to build robotic rovers. What the rovers had in it is that they had wheels. We had a circuit board. we had batteries. After a while, I kind of learned the best way to do it was to use a ping pong ball and make a bit of a tripod design. But I had some students do a lot of different designs. We had motors. And these guys, the problem though, there were some problems with this design, and I really enjoyed it. And I think I still might go back to it, but what I wanted to do with you guys, a little bit of an experiment. I wanted to try a new type of project. Okay. What I found that was a bit of an issue was it was very time consuming to get to the point where we had moving robots. Like students would, and then the problem with it was that the moving robots part was some of the hardest to code. And so I rarely had enough time to get students to build robots. But the second part that really always annoyed me is that it rarely worked. Usually students would have the cars just wouldn't move on carpet, and it was really annoying for me. But it was fun. But perhaps the part that really got to me, the part that really got to me over the past couple of years, whenever I do it, is yes, this is a robotics project, but it never felt like an engineering project. And I'll tell you, the reason why I didn't think it was an engineering project is because I always ask the question, why? Why are students building a robot that can drive around on the carpet? Why is it important for them to build a robot that can drive around all the time? And I was always like, because it's cool, because it's fun, because they learn electronics. And yeah, those are all correct, but it really annoyed me because I would always think it's not really an engineering project. You're not really solving a problem. You're just sort of like, hey, cool, I can make a robot. So what I wanted to do is I really wanted to make a project where you guys solve the problem. And the reason why I think that's important is because it means it opens up into a different sort of situation. You guys can start to question, it gives people the right to question what's going on here. So let's see how this works. How this works is, let me show you. 1 second. How this works is, okay. So what I'm thinking about doing as a project is this. This is something that I've taken this is a photo that I've taken from my garage, from my shed, and it's something that I've been building during the quarantine thing. But ultimately, the main idea that I would like you guys to look at is this is a locker door. This is a locker door straight off, very similar to the lockers that you guys have. In fact, I stole this locker door from Reese's Locker, and now everyone can, no, I'm joking. This is just a regular locker door that was broken, and I repaired it and just put it onto a thing. And the problem that I want to explore is a problem that I can't help but walk around the school and see all the time. This locker door, even though it's been removed from the lockers, is missing one important part. It's missing a lock. Now, I have walked around this school for the past 6 years that I've been here, and the amount of students' lockers that don't have locks, I always get like a bit surprised by, because you guys are bringing like laptops to school. You guys, some people are starting to store their phones in their lockers, and I'm always looking at these people, and they don't have a lock. I remember one kid at this. Actually, no, I have to be careful because I was going to say I remember this dumb year 8 kid, and I just realized that dumb year 8 kid is now in year 10, so it's actually could be one of your friends. Whatever. And there was this dumb year 8 kid, and I remember I was like, why haven't you locked your locker? It's like, oh, I just can't be bothered. I remember opening his locker, and a iPad flew out of his locker. No, a laptop flew out of his locker and hit the ground. I think actually this was a girl, sorry. The other guy was, and she was like, oh, so why did you open my locker for? It's like, because there was no lock on it. And it's like, yeah, but it was my locker. It's like, how do I know it's your locker? Your name's not on it. There's no lock on it. How is this secure? And she was like getting really angry at me and blaming me for dropping a laptop on the ground. I'm like, it's not my fault that you haven't got a lock. Then I had in my same year 8 class 3 boys that used the same locker. And they were just like, I guess I'm just going to store it. I guess it's my day to use the locker. And I was like, and they still didn't have a lock, so all of their stuff could get taken. And then last year, I had a student of mine that I actually really like. He's got a bit of an attitude. He can be a bit of a, annoying student, but what annoyed me was that what made me sad was that his locker got broken into, and I think his phone got taken. I don't think he ever saw his phone back. And he was quite upset by that, and I felt really bad for him. And so I kept thinking, this is a problem at the school. Now, I don't know why this problem is at the school, and I don't know what the causes are and who's important to it. But I thought it would be a good sort of chance. This might be an interesting activity to look at, to sort of see how do we make this so that how can we fix this problem? What are some possible solutions? So the next thing I wanted to show you guys is this here. I'm not sure how this is going to work. This is a video. This is a idea, and this is poorly lit, so please ignore it. But it's a pretty crazy idea, but I wanted to show you guys because I think it's a good excuse for a project. This here is a circuit board that is attached to the front of a laptop, front of a locker. Now that is then attached via some cords to this. This is a stepper motor. The stepper motor in turn, wow, look at that cinematography. Turns the locker open and closed. Now what turns the locker open and closed, if you then look, you can see at the very top, it's opening and closing the mechanism, which will mean that you can open and close the locker. Now, this is an electronics project. What I also wanted to do on top of having, it wouldn't be very useful. Here's the code, by the way. It wouldn't be very useful to have a locker that just open and close repetitively. So the next thing I ordered for the school was a large series of RFID chips, scanners. Now, if you don't know what an RFID scanner is, it can scan a card. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we could use your student card, to make a locker door open and close. Now, there are some advantages to having a locker door that can open and close. The advantage of having a locker door that can open and close via using this is that we can remove one. If we put this on all lockers, we could replace the locker. we could change the codes really easily. 2, it means that if teachers need to in an emergency, we could access a student's locker without having to look up their code. 3, it would be, well, maybe like only like the principal could do it, but you know, at least someone could in an emergency. Like if there was a bomb scare, we could easily quickly go tap and open up the lockers that we think could be dangerous. It stops students from using the same locker to a degree. Obviously, it's not good. There are ways around it. It also means that if a student can't afford a lock, that they can still have access to a locker. And I know some of you guys are probably thinking, so there are lots of other problems. And yeah, there are other problems here. Yeah, people can hack it. Yeah. Yeah, I actually have thought that this would be cool. There are some other, and what we could do is we could then build a case to go, a 3D printed case to go around it, and we could make this look really nice. I just think it would be interesting to solve some problems. Now, here's the thing though. I will point this out before you guys run off and say, oh my God, we should do this at the school. This is not practical at all. Okay? It's not a good solution. There are better solutions to this problem. Okay? For example, like other solutions would be, why don't we just, you know, someone said, why do we need lockers at all? That's a solution. You could make it that if you don't have a locker, we could have teachers walk around the locker bays all day just to protect people. We could have install cameras. We could maybe do digital locks, which, you know, you beep, 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 beep numbers into them and then they open up. There are so many, we could build the locks into the lockers, or we could even just make locks free. So therefore students could get a free, get free locks. If they lose their lock, they can get them. There are lots of other solutions. This is by far the least practical, maybe not the least practical, but this is one of the less practical solutions. But it is a solution to a problem, and it does solve some issues that the other problems won't solve. So this is my idea. How it will work is that there will be an RFID chip which will talk to a microcontroller. This is the brains of the operation. That will then talk back to, that will use a code, and then that will talk to a stepper motor and an indicator LED. The other reason why I like this project is that we're only dealing with like 3 external components. There will be a fair bit of complicatedness in the code. The code may be a little bit hard, but the circuit board and everything else should be okay. We will need to 3D print an enclosure. We will need to code, we'll need to wire up all of these parts. But before this, for the other project, there was an RFID. You needed to do 2 wheels, you needed a set of battery, like we're still gonna need, so I guess we're gonna need power. For the other one, we needed to set up like different 2 sets of wheels into a specialized circuit board, and then that needed to, there was just so many wires. This should have about, let's see, this should have about 4, 3, and then maybe 4. This should only take about maybe 2. This should maybe take only about 13 to 15 wires or something. So it actually won't be as complicated to wire up. So that's what I'm thinking of doing. And so that's the reason why. And so we guys now have a reason why. We have a problem that we want to solve. Okay, and that's the main reason why I think this is a better project, because you guys can actually then say this is sort of a bit of a different way to go about it. So one solution problem here, Jason's, there's a lot of things coming up. Yeah, a lot of people have sort of said some issues here. Firstly, Julie is concerned for Angus's welfare, but he was being a little bit annoying. And yeah, he can't get back in, so he can look at the video once I upload it later on. Jason, buy another lock. Yeah, getting another lock is definitely a way to go about it. That is a solution, but the problem with having another lock is that, yeah, what if the kid turns up and says, I can't afford another lock, or I'll get around to it, you know? Then someone said, what if they lose their ID? Great question. That's a problem with this. It's like, we've just moved that problem one step back. It's like, oh, what if a student loses an ID? What do you do then? I don't know. I guess that means there's a problem with this setup. But you guys will find that there are lots of problems with this setup. iScanner, yeah, sure, that could work too. You might have like a backup code maybe that you could type in a secret 9-digit number, but we probably won't do that. Fingerprints, yeah, you know what, that's actually not as hard as you might think. You can get fingerprint scanners. I actually did contemplate buying a fingerprint scanner just to play around with electronics and stuff, unless they lose their finger, which is unlikely, possible, but unlikely. But what would be worse is if they broke their finger and then their finger was in a cast. Okay, so what am I going to get you guys to do? Well, can you? My problem with voice recognition, Jason. I know that you're mostly joking, but still, my problem with voice recognition is, could you imagine like the year 10 locker bay with like 50 students saying, recognize my voice, this is Jason, open up, and you've got like 20 different people doing it. That would be really inconvenient. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys this. I have now, who the hell is this? Oh, it's Angus and Julia. Okay, Angus is already, because Angus has jumped into it because he's been like, I don't know what to do. The rest of this lesson, what I want you guys to do is on the Google Classroom page, I've now uploaded the robotics brief, and that's the classwork. And that's what I'm going to get you guys to spend the last 10 minutes doing today. In the robotics brief, there are 2 parts of the assessment, okay? The first part of the assessment is a questionnaire, okay? The questionnaire looks like this. Now, in that questionnaire, you should have these questions. The first one is, we're not going to do this project individually. We're going to do this project in groups of 3. I found groups of 3 work really well because if one student's away, then you've still got a pair of students that can do the work. And it also means that there's more likelihood that you'll have a working laptop in a group of 3. What I want you guys to do is, I would like you to put your name, then I would like you, who's your first preference? Who would you really, who do you want to be in your group? Okay, who's your second preference? Who's your third preference? Your third preference is like, I wouldn't mind this person being in the group, but I mean, like, whatever. So then the idea of this is, it gives me a way to say, it's like, oh wow, maybe like maybe Marco really wants to work with Vincent, but it's like Vincent's already in a different group. I'm like, well, what's Marco's second preference? Well, Marco wouldn't mind working with Jason. Okay, cool, great, done, sorted. There are some other things here. Do you have a working laptop? Is it a PC or a Mac? Ignore that, that's a typo, sorry. Is it a PC or Mac? That's just a typo of that word. I'll change it later. Yeah, later. What do you prefer? You know, do you prefer these things? And this last one here is, there's going to be 2 types of coding that we can use. Block-based coding and syntactical coding. We're probably going to have to use syntactical coding anyway, but just which one of these would you prefer if you had to use it to code? What is the robotics brief? Now, this is what we're going to start today, but we're probably going to work on this on Thursday as well. So what is the problem that needs to be solved? This is the engineering, and you have to be careful with this, okay? I know this like, oh, duh, it's obvious, but like, is the problem students are leaving their lockers unlocked? Or is the problem students don't have locks to lock their locker. Both of those might sound very similar, but they are very different. Okay, what do I mean? How are they different? Students don't have locks. That means that there's a solution. One solution is just give the students locks. One, if you say not all lockers are locked, then that might mean, well, how can we phrase that? Then it's like, why is this an important issue to solve? Like, why do we care about solving it? Why do people need their lockers locked in the first place? Like, why do we even care? Stakeholders, so who are involved? So obviously you have students who can't afford locks, but you might also have like coordinators. I know that coordinators find it really hard because they have to try and figure out who locked the lock and stuff like that. You might have maybe year 7s that struggle with combination locks, you know, whatever. How are these people affected by the fact that we're using locks, these combination locks? Later on, I'm going to get you guys to maybe interview one of these people. But like, so if that happens before the lockdown ends, I might get you to maybe send those people an email. But I don't want people to do that yet because I haven't organized which groups you guys are going to be in. Possible solutions. You guys have to come up with at least 4 possible solutions. I put 7 here because I know some people aren't going to be listening to me. They're going to do more. I would rather you do more. So yeah, could we get teachers to police everything? Could we get cameras? Could we buy everyone a lock? Maybe we could, I don't know, like use an electronic lock. Maybe we could, yeah, whatever. Like maybe we could use one of those combination dialogues built into the lockers, so then it's impossible to lose. But then that might have some problems too. Like if you think the next part too is then to say, well, choose these solutions, evaluate them, and then choose 3 solutions and say what their pros and cons are. So maybe if you put like a code on a locker, right, that you have to push in the code, well, what happens the next year? Does that mean that that person still knows the code to that locker? So then they can, like, I can break into if I'm in year 10, I can break into the locker that I used in year 9. Yeah, is that a good solution? And what are some other solutions? And then I've also talked about constraints. Constraints are here. So what are some things that at a school we have to make sure are okay? It must be safe. So ultimately, you can't put like, you can't booby trap a locker so that it's not you opening it, then the booby trap goes off and it stabs the person opening the locker. And it's like, oh, I know that if I turn this locker, if I open this door too quickly, then a knife springs out, and that's to catch people that try to break into my locker so they get stabbed. That's not a safe solution. It is a solution. So if you want to write that down, you can, but it's not a safe solution. It can't be too expensive. You have to make sure that it can use. Now, what are some other things that are going to stop us? You don't have to use every dot point here, but yeah, it's something is like, what are the things that must be considered before making this possible? And the last bit here is design, which is going to be a bit full on, but we're going to list. This is sort of the last thing. Don't worry about this yet. Mostly focus on this. You guys have got 5 minutes left, so you probably don't have enough time to start working through the brief. But what I do want you guys to do now is at least get this questionnaire done, so I can put you into groups tonight, so that tomorrow we can get you guys to start working on maybe working on a very similar thing to that brief, but one of the briefs together.